Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. I am Patrick Daugherty, joined this Tuesday by Lawrence Jackson, Kyle Dvorchak, where we'll talk the fallout from an eternally bizarre Monday Night Football series this year. A lot of injuries on Monday evening in Glendale to a lot of key players. Fortunately, some pretty major fantasy fallout. Then, as always, we will get into our toughest rankings for Week 15. We're a totally different player pool. All 32 teams are playing again. Buys are officially over for the 2022 season. But we'll start just with Monday night. Kyler Murray, fantasy superstar. At least we've always wanted him to be a fantasy superstar. Having kind of a strange 2022. Now it's over. He's out. Colt McCoy's potato gun is in. What is the effect going to be on this Cardinals passing attack for the final 4 games?
Yeah, I mean, this is not good. And I don't think, like you said, Kyler Murray was not having the year we kind of all expected him to, but this is not going to be good. Colt McCoy has, I'm counting last night. Yeah, last night as a start, he played like 90% of the snaps or something. So including that game in 6 appearances with the Cardinals over the past 2 years, has topped 250 passing yards once, has thrown multiple touchdowns once. I'd imagine this team is kind of shelling up into the James Conner based offense that they've been using him as the focal point of their backfield, which we'll get to, but he might just become the focal point of their offense. Maybe they can scheme up they already scheme up low 8-out stuff. So maybe this is team, and they sort of have appeared to be a little more resistant to their backup quarterback, Colt McCoy, coming in, but it's not good. Like, I already think this offense was not well run in a larger sense anyways. Now you insert a lesser starting quarterback. I don't think everyone's completely unplayable, but the floor is falling out of an already low floor offense on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, Lawrence, before you jump in there, when you said Colt McCoy hasn't exceeded 250 yards in the past 2 years. Seems like he's one guy. He throws so many passes that you expect like more production, but
And they've
so
won
empty.
some of those games too. That's why I was kind of surprised. Is of like if we had famous memories of Colt McCoy getting trashed in these starts, I would say, oh yeah, it's not surprising that he hasn't been productive. But they actually won those games, which maybe that part speaks to the redundancy of the team relative to its quarterback versus backup. But that also speaks to the maybe lower level of production we were getting from Kyler this year. I don't know. I mean, it's not good, even if Colt isn't the worst backup.
So, Lawrence, I'm assuming you don't have good news.
Well, I mean, actually, if we're talking about a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, I actually wouldn't see him I wouldn't consider this a positive nor a negative for him. To me, it stays the same here. I mean, he's still, the thing is can he get touchdowns? But he's always going to get his volume. He still saw 11 targets in that Monday night game, ended up going 7 for 79 there. In only 2 games since he's come back from his suspension has he seen less than 12 targets in a game. And one of those times, Kyler Murray was the quarterback. And it was the game where he was like, "What you looking at, dog? What you looking at?"
An iconic one.
Yeah.
It was also the game where Marquise Brown returned.
Right. And Marquise Brown, too. Now, he had 8 targets last night. The Cardinals, from a passing standpoint, for the rest of the season, you could kind of imagine they're going to be in these type of situations where they're going to have to throw. Like Kyle said, the offense overall obviously takes a hit because you putting in a much lesser quarterback, so their chances to score might dwindle a little bit, but the volume's going to be there. Marquise Brown, I would say, is probably the dude who, you have to look at the matchups the next couple of weeks and see if you want to put him in there. But for Hopkins, he's going to, if all else fails, he's going to demand them targets. So that guy is cool. We good with that.
Yeah, Colt McCoy is probably not unlocking Hollywood Brown down the field. And probably good for DeAndre Hopkins that Zach Ertz is hurt, because Zach Ertz seemed like 10 targets from Colt McCoy, like just waiting to happen. It could maybe be a little concerning when Rondale Moore comes back. Like, you give a guy like Colt McCoy, Rondale Moore, and Greg Dortch, like they're almost gonna be like running like the pick and roll together. Like, just like could be a lot of targets for a lot of slot dudes. But I think you're probably right, Lauren. I mean, even last night, yeah, he got to 11 targets, only 79 yards on those 11 targets, so kind of a Colt McCoy stat line.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
hopefully the volume will at least remain there for DeAndre Hopkins. Then, man, so Patriots, Rhamondre Stevenson. This game, I was trying to put my kids to bed, and like every 2 seconds, I was getting a text like, "Dude, like now Rhamondre Stevenson's hurt." Like I hadn't even sat down yet, and I lost Kyler Murray in like 4 leagues where I was trying to make the playoffs.
I was going to say you were struggling to put your kids to bed because they were sobbing about the roof being taken off their house.
I know. It's very cold. Yeah, it's rainy today, so it's a dark day for my family. But Rhamondre Stevenson, he tried to play through an ankle injury, ultimately departed, I believe, late in the second quarter. Damian Harris remains week to week with a thigh issue. Who, if anyone, are we prioritizing between Pierre Strong and Kevin Harris, or are we just trying to kind of wait for more information?
I'm not sure how much more we're going to get, especially with Bill Belichick infamously, like the information he's going to give us is a grunt. Maybe we'll try and decipher how loud or quiet the grunt was, depending on, is Kevin Harris? Maybe if you ask Kevin Harris first and the grunt's loud, it's good for Kevin Harris. Or if you say, is it Pierre Strong or Kevin Harris and the grunt's loud, then it's Pierre Strong. But like, I don't think we're getting more information. I mean, I really do think this is going to be a complete enigma. I would have assumed it would be Pierre Strong, but it looked like a true committee in which I believe Kevin Harris was actually the one who led the team in carries. I think the more interesting thing is not the backfield as much as last night was this team's highest pass rate over expected at 9% of the entire season. And they didn't even, I don't believe, had Jacoby Myers, correct? So
They did not.
If you're going to tell me that they lost Damian Harris before the game, then they lose Rhamondre early, and we see a high pass rate from this team. I mean, I think Mac Jones threw like 35 times in a game where it wasn't like they were trailing. They weren't playing catch up. They trailed for a handful of minutes, and it never went more than a 6-point deficit, so not even the full touchdown. I think maybe this actually, and they get to play the Raiders next week, which is why I really care about this.
I was just looking up who they're playing. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I was really curious. If you tell me they're playing a better defense, I don't care how many Mac Jones dropbacks we get. I'm not that excited. If they are kind of forcing themselves, or the injuries are forcing them to rely on Mac Jones, normally I would say that's not great. But versus the Raiders, I love that. I'd actually be very interested in some of the pass catchers, or even just streaming Mac Jones if, say, you lost Kyler.
Yeah.
Lawrence, do you like Pierre Strong or Kevin Harris?
No, not really. Matter of fact, I think Bill Belichick might be calling up LeGarrette Blount today to come back to
who's on their practice squad? They have to have somebody that he wants to elevate over these guys.
Jonas Gray's available still.
He'll come out real quick, run for 200 yards, and then there you go. What's interesting about what you said, Kyle, about them doing the passing game thing, right? They actually attempted to throw the ball deep to Tyquan Thornton when they were up 2 touchdowns late in the game. Me personally, that could have ruined my playoff hopes because I ended up winning my Superflex match by 5 points going against Mac Jones. So if he would have completed that, I'd have been done for. But it is interesting that you don't really see that from the Patriots offense too much when they got the lead in hand. No. I think they was just trying to like catch him off guard real quick. It was a first down play, so it'll definitely be interesting to see how they approach things against the Raiders in Week 15.
Pierre Strong, Kyle, I guess, kind of had the reputation coming out of the draft as like the more versatile, the more explosive player than Kevin Harris, and maybe showed like a little more last. Well, no, he had a 44-yard run. He did show kind of a lot more. 2 catches for 20 yards. He'd be who I would prioritize in the waiver wire, but I mean, Damian Harris was doubtful for Week 14, so he wasn't like immediately ruled out on Saturday. He could be coming back against the Raiders. I mean, Rhamondre Stevenson tried to play through the injury, so maybe it's not like super, super serious. It's just, it seems like, I guess you probably don't have much fab money left anyway, and it's a really, really bad week on the waiver wire. So you could probably take shots on both of them, but also just like really temper your expectations for both of them because either one of them might get 0 carries in Week 15. So it could be.
You never know with these
Carnival
guys.
Of Sadness.
They were terrified of giving these guys carries whenever Damian Harris went out. Like Rhamondre had not been a 3-down back up until this point in the NFL. And Damian Harris goes out instead of backfilling him and doing a committee that Bill Belichick has done a committee for the entirety of my adult life. He said, no, Rhamondre, 25 touches, 98% snaps. Kevin Harris and Pierre Strong, you are not seeing the field. So that really does make me believe, like,
that's a really good point.
he would rather lean on potato gun Mac Jones, Colt McCoy East, than try and run it with his running backs.
Colt McCoy East. Oh my gosh, man, come on.
Than try and run it with.
That's a good little comparison.
Yeah, it is actually a pretty good comparison. Man, that's it. Mac he's a rough watch, man. He's so inflexible. Like, I feel like I've never seen a less flexible
it's his throwing form. He kind of throw it like, I mean, it get there, the ball get there, but it's like
his whole upper body can only move as one. Like, he can't move individual parts of his upper body
except when he's doing the gritty. Then
what's the
did he really
whatever his version of it?
Did he really pop the gritty? Oh my god,
he did it in the Pro Bowl last year. It is, it wasn't Justin Jefferson, but it wasn't Mike Gesicki either.
Interesting.
It's like the I think it was like the Tim Burton Batman outfit where he can't move his neck because it's like just hard plastic rubber or whatever. So he's just forced to rotate his whole waist whenever he talks to another character. Except in this case, it's Mac Jones forced to rotate his whole body when he wants to get to the second read in his progression.
Yeah, the Patriots make everything too complicated on offense. Maybe take Mac Jones out of the Tim Burton Batman costume. Might be a more effective quarterback. Kyle, will segue into running back. What kind of while sticking with this game, because the running back you were having trouble ranking this week was James Conner, RB4 and RB6 over the past two Cardinals games. One of those was with Kyler Murray, and then last night, of course, with Colt McCoy. But it seems like maybe even before the injury, they were going to maybe put the offense on his back. And even though all 32 teams are active this week, he kind of feels like an RB1. Am I wrong?
No, I was struggling with how high can I push him, because his role, I mean, it's kind of second to none right now in terms of running backs, at least in terms of his share of the backfield, his snaps. Since he returned from, I believe it was a rib injury in week 9, it's been 5 games ago, he has had snap shares at his lowest of 71 and 77, I believe, %. 3 games over 90%. He leads all running backs since returning from the rib injury in % of backfield carries. They are not giving any other running back carries nor snaps, and he's running the bulk of the routes. Obviously, if you're going to be on 90% of snaps, you're going to run the routes too. So he's not getting a ton of work in the sense of he's not Derrick Henry 25 carries, and he's not Christian McCaffrey 8 or 9 targets. But as a cut of the backfield, he is those running backs. He's like better than Derrick Henry is in terms of the route share, and he's better than McCaffrey is in terms of the carry share. It's just a matter of, how we feel about his talent and how we feel about the offense, almost more importantly, really, as it heads into the final, the next Colt McCoy era, hopefully the final Colt McCoy era. But running back 1, I easily am going to have him top 12. It's really, do I push him that Joe Mixon tier, right? 7, 8, 9, 10.
I have him as the RB10 right now. Lawrence, what are your thoughts on James Conner?
Dang, am I off or something? Because I got him at running back 16. I mean,
you gotta go back to the drawing board.
Something, yeah. What's the word I'm looking for? The share that he's gonna get of the backfield that he has been getting. That's something hard to argue. I didn't even realize, but now that every back is back, every player is back. I'm just looking at some names like ETN. I actually got Zonovan Knight in that 14-15 range with Aaron Jones. And then I got against the Lions, he's ready to go. I mean, I can't argue with the fact that they'll lean on James Conner, especially now with no Kyler Murray. No Kyler Murray to take, some of the rushing yards away from him. Colt McCoy is certainly not going to do that. But just because of some of the other players that are there, and it's not like Denver is some, they're not slouches on defense. The Chiefs were very successful as far from a scoring standpoint, but that was Jerick McKinnon going for 100 yards receiving, So, I mean, is James Conner going to get it that way?
He's kind of getting it every way right now. The Broncos, they're elite through the air, a little more vulnerable on the ground. It's just, the usage has just been insane for Conner. He's almost like Alvin Kamara type usage. Kind of like, honestly, like how Rhamondre Stevenson
Yeah, Rhamondre is like a good comp. He's not seeing as many. Like Rhamondre was actually like Alvin Kamara plus more carries. He's like Dalvin Cook plus, I'd say, in terms of usage.
And I heard you're having trouble ranking Dalvin Cook. I'm going to actually ask you about Dalvin Cook real quick, but I mean, Lawrence, James Conner against the Broncos or Aaron Jones against the Rams?
Oh, man.
This is easy for me.
I know it is for you. It ain't for me. Let's see. What did the
Jimmy? Come on, it's Jimmy.
Give me Aaron Jones. That's how
I do have him back to back. I have Jimmy in one spot ahead of Aaron Jones. James Conner or Miles Sanders?
Miles Sanders.
Miles Sanders is playing the Bears.
Yeah, give me Miles Sanders.
Maybe Miles.
Yeah, James Conner at the Denver Broncos. Ezekiel Elliott versus the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Jamathan.
Now you might have me.
I got James.
I got him at 15 and 16, but I'll go James there. He has the whole. I mean, he coming off a 7-target game, which I just now realized.
Yeah, Lawrence, I think you might be reevaluating. You're gonna come back.
I'm gonna be reevaluating.
You're gonna text Kyle and I later. I got him up to RB8 now, guys. Kyle, yeah, I mean, you mentioned Dalvin Cook. We can touch on him like briefly, because he's just not having an inspiring year. Like he's just having a very, very, very strange year. Had a very unproductive week 14 and a pretty bad Vikings loss, and what should have been a really good scoring environment for the Vikings. He did find the end zone for the second straight game, but what are your thoughts on Dalvin Cook?
Yeah, at first I was like just kind of digging into its surface level, was pretty down on Dalvin Cook coming off of the 15 carry, 23 yard. Those two numbers far too similar for my liking, but one touchdown performance. And the more concerning part is that he really hasn't been catching many passes, and he really hasn't been doing anything with the passes he has been catching for weeks and weeks and weeks now. I mean, he doesn't have a game over 30 receiving yards the whole season. He doesn't have a game over 30 receiving yards. He has 3 games of 4+ catches, but only valuable in the sense of they're worth some PPR points. But he's been scoring a lot of touchdowns to save the otherwise lackluster performances. So I was like, oh, touchdown dependent RB2 type. But last week he dominated the carries still. We didn't see Alexander Madison. I think he got 2 carries, didn't get a target. And most importantly, I did kind of think maybe he's just kind of lost a step, but he is still above. He's not maybe elite, but he has still been well above average in yards after contact per attempt, above average on missed tackles forced per attempt. So it doesn't seem like he's fallen off the map in terms of physical abilities either. So I do kind of think sort of like Saquon Barkley, but he's not as talented in the sense of Dalvin Cook is a boom bust runner. Like he will have in the past 2 years, he's had games in each of the past 2 seasons with 200 yards. He hasn't had that yet, but if he has one of those, we talk about the season entirely differently, right? We talk about the highs and not the lows. So I pulled back on my pessimism a little bit. I'm still going to have him ranked as an RB1, whereas like his performances outside of the touchdowns do not look anything like RB1 numbers, but he is getting the touchdowns, first of all. Second of all, he doesn't look like he's breaking down by any means. So I'm still calling him RB1. I'm not terrified. I'm a little concerned, but not terrified.
Yeah, I still have him ranked as a low-end RB1, and we'll get to Saquon Barkley in a minute. You're talking about a guy who's disappointing in the receiving production department. Yeah. Lawrence, who are you having trouble ranking this week?
J.K. Dobbins, man, and it might seem like it's easy to rank him now, but you really got to consider some things. I mean, the 44-yard run that he had in week 14, it was nice. It was nice to, get those points. It was nice. He had other good runs too. Nice that he got in the end zone. In fact, their running game is pretty much why they was able to win that game. The thing about it in week 15 against the Browns, we know you could run against the Browns, right? The thing is, what's the quarterback situation going to be there? Is it going to be Tyler Huntley? Is it going to be the rookie, Anthony Brown? Is that offense going to be able to move, period? So you like the matchup and you like what the Ravens do coming into the matchup. But honestly, man, and I'm a guy who, like, when guys are coming back from injury, I'm always against the crowd because the crowd's always trying to say, well, we don't know if he's healthy or this or that. I don't know if J.K. Dobbins. Listen. All you have to do is watch Ohio State highlights or rookie highlights, and those runs do not look like that 44-yard run that he had.
That was
And that's scary.
ugly looking run.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know.
He houses that run his
Easily.
rookie year. He housed that run. So it's like, but they giving him the carries, like it don't seem like he in pain or anything, you know. So that it's quite confusing for me to where I'm gonna rank him this week, but based on the usage and how they immediately made him the guy, like I have him at an RB2 right now.
I got him right outside the RB2. And Denny and I were talking about this on Monday's podcast. I mean, without exaggerating, you could see him dragging his left leg on that run. Like, just it was kind of like as concerning like as a highlight could be,
Yeah.
you know. But like Lawrence said, he must not be in any pain, and it's a good sign that they did immediately recommit to him for 15 carries. But yeah, I mean, we're seeing why they've been so deliberate with his return timelines and why they just keep giving him more time, because he just doesn't look like J.K. Dobbins looked like coming out of college. And maybe, hopefully, he can get somewhere closer to his pre-injury form this offseason. Kyle, where do you think you'll have? I have his RB26 right now. So, I mean, I'm giving him some respect with the whole player pool out there, but I've got him one spot ahead of Cam Akers right now. Let's put it that way.
I think I would take Cam Akers over him, but I think that's the right zone to have him in. Like, I do think you'd be splitting hairs-ish. It's like, you know, Cam Akers probably has a better role than J.K. Dobbins, but J.K. Dobbins definitely plays for a better offense, and the matchup is great. Like, it's the last-ranked defense by EPA per rush allowed, one of the bottom 5 defenses in terms of fantasy points allowed to running backs. And the fact that the Browns offense isn't getting anything going could mean that we get more of, even if it's not Tyler Huntley, it could at least mean that this game is competitive from a points sense, maybe not in the most exciting way, but just from the Ravens getting to keep the ball and just grind out possession after possession. So yeah, I think I'd still take Cam Akers over.
I'm going to ask you guys 2 more of these, and I feel like these are kind of diabolical ones. J.K. Dobbins at the Cleveland Browns or DeAndre Swift at the New York Jets, Lawrence?
Dobbins.
Oh,
Dobbins, because what he did just threw me. I was ready to go with DeAndre Swift. I'm like, yeah, he back. 18 touches in week 13. He back. He ain't back, or they ain't letting him be back.
The canary in the coal mine. He got a limited practice on Wednesday, and it was never going back. We were never getting it again.
I was like, surely they're just giving him getting him off his feet a little bit after he had 18 touches.
And they still are.
18 touches, that's nothing.
I'm not pulling the plug just yet. J.K. Dobbins or Leonard Fournette against the Cincinnati Bengals?
Dobbins too.
Fine. Okay, I'll do one more. J.K. Dobbins or Raheem Mostert against the Bills. Jeff Wilson was, of course, carted in week 14.
Definitely. Well,
Mostert.
Not definitely, because there's no Jeff Wilson and we don't expect him to play.
Yeah.
I'll go Mostert.
I actually might have to get Mostert higher. I only have him as the RB29 right now, which does seem very low. Back-to-back pretty poor performances for the Dolphins offense. Now they're facing another elite defense, but I should probably get Mostert higher. See, I alluded to, I'm having trouble ranking Saquon Barkley because obviously seems like he's kind of running out of gas as a runner, which isn't like hugely surprising, I guess. But I'm just so shocked by the lack of receiving production. He's cleared 40 yards. He's only cleared 40 yards rushing one time in the past 4 weeks. He has 81 total receiving yards over his past 6 games. Just like, considering what the Giants are dealing with at receiver, and considering what we know Saquon Barkley can do as a receiver, just shockingly little passing production. And I don't really get it. And I mean, we know like those pop-up efforts, those spiked weeks are in there somewhere for Saquon, but I have him outside the top 12 this week for the first time all year, obviously. So there's some pushback on that. What's the pushback?
I think I agree. The receiving production is like somewhere between frustrating and concerning, maybe leaning towards concerning. But to me, the lack of rushing production, like I don't really care. That is literally what Saquon Barkley is famous for, is not rushing well in a few games and then going for 180 the next game. Like that is just how flipping the Saquon Barkley coin works. You come up tails sometimes, and he just gets stuffed every time as he looks for the long run. And then
what you
sometimes
got
you
against
come up,
tails, man?
I actually always choose tails. I think it's the optimal move. But
tails never fails. I always choose heads though. But continue.
And then every 3-4 weeks, sometimes more often, sometimes less often. It's just how the Saquon Barkley coin flip cuts is that you go nuts and then sometimes you don't. So I'm not concerned about his rushing. I don't think he's slowing down at all, really. The receiving production, though, we'd love to get those numbers up.
I just don't get it. They have no receivers. But what's your pushback, Lawrence?
I mean, Saquon, he himself is fine. This is what I wish would happen. As good a coach as Brian Dable is, and you know, they're obviously been trying to protect their quarterback this whole season. They should take a little page out of the Chargers playbook from Sunday night. That's the exact same way that the Giants should be running their offense. And they've done it in the past. I don't know, like Austin Eckler never has good rushing games. No. Never. He's always averaging, you know what I'm saying? But he's always scoring a lot of touchdowns. He always has the ball in his hand because they're going to manufacture him touches out of the backfield. He's always upward towards 7-8 targets, no matter what, just to get the ball. Like, do that with Saquon. Fake the run. Use the bootleg. Like, again, they've done it, but just for the sake of getting it in Saquon's hands, man, just like give him more than 9 carries. Give him more than 3 targets. Like, do you want to win the game?
Apparently not. So you guys think I need him back in the top 12, huh?
You can play the rankings game, but I think putting him outside of top 12 feels like nuts to me.
Well, man, I don't know. Really? Wow, this is tough, man. You have Saquon ahead of Aaron Jones still?
Yes.
I do. I got him at 8.
Sanders still?
Yes.
I got to get Zeke behind him. I'll admit that.
Obviously.
I'll admit that. Isaiah Pacheco at the Houston Texans or Saquon Barkley?
You still give me Saquon. I get what you're saying, but Saquon.
Travis Etienne versus the Cowboys or Saquon?
Saquon.
Man, this is ridiculous. There's a lot of really tough rankings. I guess it's because the full player pool is back. It took me like a lot longer than usual to do my initial run through on Tuesday morning.
You know what's crazy about the rankings? The first couple of weeks of the season, we don't really think about that as all of the, like, we got every single player the first 5 weeks, right? Mm-hmm. Then we start getting these buys here and there, but then we get to the point again where we get all the players back, and it's like, what the hell? We don't even know what to do now. Like, where all these players come from?
I know 32 teams playing in week 15 hits so much worse than it does in week 1 and 2.
Does it ever, man? I'm just not recovered from having to do this. Gonna be a long week, and it's not gonna be a long show. We'll be right back after this. What a horrible transition. We'll be right back after this. Just a reminder, if you don't have the NBC Sports Predictor app, go download it now. The contests are free and easy to play, and you have a shot to win thousands this weekend by predicting what will happen in college football, on the PGA Tour, and in the World Cup. There's also $100,000 up for grabs by guessing the outcome between the Giants and Commanders in our Sunday Night 7 contest. And don't forget, download the Rotoworld app to receive breaking player news all season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players on your roster. Get the latest injury updates, player news, and much more delivered right to your phone. It's available in your app store today. Lawrence, who are we having trouble ranking a wide receiver?
Tyler Lockett,
for his whole career, not just this week.
Oh yeah, definitely. It seems like, he always kind of, gets counted out just a little bit, even especially when it comes to July and August, and then boom, he has another good season. The thing about it this week is I'm a little concerned about, how the Seahawks offense looked against the Panthers. And now they're facing the Niners. And again, Tyler Lockett was still able to do his thing, but like that was against the Panthers. It'll be just a little bit tougher against these here 49ers. And again, the touchdown he caught in week 14, the toe tap drill kind of saved his fantasy day. Other than that, it was 5 catches for 60 yards. So going against this top tier defense that has been completely shutting teams down. They did it to the Dolphins. They did it to the GOAT. So, I mean, he can obviously do it to Geno and that Seahawks offense. So that'll leave me, a little bit more confusing. And do I rank him ahead of DK? That's another thing.
Yeah, man, DK versus Lockett is always weird. And
I simply won't. No matter how many touchdowns Tyler Lockett scores, he's going to have 16 at the end of the year and DK will have 6. And I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, right?
Yeah, same.
He has touchdowns in 6 consecutive games, I believe. And DK has like 2 touchdowns or maybe 3 over that span. So it's not like he's completely shutting DK out of the scoring metrics, but could we get DK some more touchdowns? I know he has some, but
DK's been seeing really good volume. Actually,
he sees more volume than Tyler Lockett. He scores like half the touchdowns.
He has 43 targets over his past 4 games. DK Metcalf. I feel like the Lockett concern this week is more about Geno Smith against the 49ers than it is about Lockett himself, and because we've seen the Geno coaster kind of going south a little bit.
It ebbs and flows.
He's finally getting like overexposed a bit, where he's just like the classic. He's like the classic quarterback where you understand why you try to limit his attempts. Actually, like keep him within himself, make it so he doesn't have to put the whole team on his back. But he has to put the whole team on his back because the defense is bad and the running game is just gutted by injury. Yeah, we're kind of seeing why Geno doesn't throw 40 balls a game. Is what I feel like, because if he in the muddy pocket, he makes mistakes, and going to be a lot of really bad pockets against the 49ers. But I still have Tyler Lockett safely in the top 20, Lawrence. I mean, do we still have him in the top 18? I still have him in the top 18. I think I have him as the wide receiver 18.
I put him right inside the top 20 because how can you not? I'm doing it and I'm seeing all the receivers there, it's just like, okay, even though, the Colts are going up against the Vikings who just gave up everything to the Lions, like I still have to have Lockett in there because he's undeniable. Kyle mentioned it, a touchdown in 6 straight games. That's not a mistake. Geno, looks for this guy in the red area and for good reason. So yeah, definitely inside the top 20, but it's like some weeks Tyler Lockett, there's times when you should probably be making him a top 10 receiver, but we never going to do it.
Kyle, who are you having trouble ranking this week?
Jaylen Waddle, and it's not as exciting as Tyler Lockett. Well, Tyler Lockett's like a really good number 2. He scores a lot of touchdowns. I think Waddle's a really good number 2, but he's not scoring a ton. And early in the season, it really looked like there was potential for a 1A, 1B situation where either week it could be either guy. That's miles in the rear view at this point. It's so clearly Tyreek Hill. Not only is this team's number 1 receiver, but he's the one who they're like moving around the formation, trying to scheme up targets for, and Jaylen Waddle's just kind of left out to dry, and he still gets there. Sometimes, I was going to say plenty of times. It doesn't feel like plenty of times anymore. And we've only seen Jaylen Waddle out-target Tyreek Hill in 3 games this year. After a string of so-so performances, he's fallen to the wide receiver 31 in target share. I don't want to rank him as a wide receiver 3, but his target share is that of a wide receiver 3. His fantasy production is in the past few weeks. I don't even know if it's wide receiver 3 numbers. I'm still going to have him there. Because I still believe in this offense. I'm not too shaken by a few bad performances by Tua and the entire offense, but I'd feel better if they weren't coming off bad performances. I'd feel better if Waddle had done much recently. So I still think he's top 24. He's still top 20. Is he still top 24?
He is for sure. I mean, partly I think he must be dealing with like a horrible leg bruise, again, to be listed with the fibula. 5 or fewer targets in 3 of his past 4 games. I mean, that is weird and concerning. I mean, he's had a concerning amount of just 5 target games all year, as you kind of alluded to. And the Dolphins not running very pure right now, but and the upside, he has a reasonable floor. He's at a yardage floor at least all season, despite kind of like the concerning target share,
mostly,
like you said, Kyle. But then obviously, as the number 2 receiver in this offense, he maintains a super high weekly ceiling. So I think you got to keep running. I think you got to keep running him out there, probably even in the top 20, not just the top 24.
All right,
but
fair enough.
But where would you guys rank Tee Higgins if you were told he's going to play this week?
Well, the
last time I was told he was going to play, he played 1 snap.
Yeah, I've always ranked him in the top 12. I'm not doing that this week.
Agreed.
Because even if he do play, it's just like you know what he could do. You know he could have one of those. He's like a better version of Gabe Davis.
So
Almost.
much better, dude. Oh my god.
No, come on, man.
What do you mean? Come on. Don't come on me.
I'm saying we don't slander Gabe Davis.
But
You can praise Tee Higgins. You don't slander Gabe, though.
I have to slander or use Gabe Davis as an example because Tee Higgins kind of does this. Like he had a couple 100-yard games a couple of weeks ago, but then week 13, right? He did score a touchdown, but it was on 3 catches for 35 yards. This time he doesn't play. When Jamar Chase is there, he's always going to get his number. This is another situation that coming into the season, I saw it as, it could be not a 1A, 1B type of situation because Jamar Chase is so good, but this would be the best number 2 receiver by far in the league. It's just not happening on a week-to-week basis, and he's probably on a whole season scale probably been more inconsistent than the Jaylen Waddle. But I'll have him ranked higher than Jaylen Waddle because they're not playing against the Bills this week. So there you go.
He's also probably displayed an overall higher ceiling than Jaylen Waddle. It's a crazy week at receiver. A lot of really is Mike Williams a wide receiver 1?
No, what? No. Why would he? No.
I think he is actually. Do you know who they're playing?
I don't care.
They're playing the Tennessee Titans, Kyle.
That's a great matchup. That's a great matchup.
Playing the Tennessee Titans.
I got him at 14. I got Keenan Allen as a wide receiver 1-0.
Yeah, didn't Keenan see like 14 targets last week? Mike,
a lot of targets.
Yeah, he didn't get the big 55-yard reception in like Mike Williams did, and he probably won't. But you could count on those targets. You
got
can count on those receptions.
We got them both in the top 15 right now.
Do you have Mike ahead of Keenan?
Say that again?
Do you have Mike Williams ahead of Keenan?
I do. I think he'll have a pretty high floor this week. And as you guys
I do love Mike. I'm a fan of
a high
Mike.
floor, and I think obviously no one will debate he has a higher ceiling than Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
And it's a ceiling.
PPR league, 14, 15 targets is a high ceiling.
Yeah, it's a ceiling type matchup though for like a downfield receiver. There's a lot of Devontae Smith. I feel like I have to keep getting higher and higher in the rankings. Garrett Wilson, you got to keep getting higher and higher in the rankings.
Who do you have to get lower?
No one. Chris Godwin, I had to get lower this week.
We kind of talked about it. We talked about Waddle, who 7 weeks. It's been a while.
Probably Christian Kirk.
Yeah.
Waddle, Kirk. T. Obviously, we have to bake in just so much floor risk for T. So we didn't talk about some guys you have to get lower.
So a guy we have to get lower or higher, I really do not know, is Amari Cooper. He's the one who I'm having trouble ranking. I have as the wide receiver 24 right now. Just is not connecting with Deshaun Watson at the moment through 2 games, only 6 catches for 82 yards. Has drawn 16 targets. Watson has spiked Donovan Peoples-Jones in week 14. He spiked David Njoku. Amari Cooper's been feast or famine all year. Do you think wide receiver 24 is too low? Or does that sound about right?
I'm fine with that. I would, if I wasn't so concerned about Watson, I would have him a decent bit higher because his market share numbers have been really strong. And he's posted 4, 100-yard games. He has something like 6 or 7 touchdowns, 7 touchdowns. He's clearly the team's wide receiver 1. But with Watson, that does not appear to be as valuable as it was with Jacoby Brissett. Who would have guessed? But I don't know. I think it's fine to have him ranked there. I may have him ranked a little higher, but if you want to be concerned about the way this offense has looked, which you probably should be, you can definitely push him back down the rankings.
I got him a little higher, 21, not nothing too crazy. I was looking at the over-under for that game too, 37.5. That also had
for real?
Yeah, I was about to pull it up too because that's such a good point. Yeah,
that also had me push him outside the top 20. So probably, look, you got Nick Chubb on one side, and then you got J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards on the other side. You know what type of game this is going to be, and that's why that over-under is so low.
37.5 is not even the lowest total of the week so far.
What is the lowest total? Who's Denver play?
Cardinals Broncos.
Yeah, it's a couple. Right. It's a couple of those under. It's like 3 games.
There's 3 under 40. Cardinals Broncos are at 36.5. Wow. Man, oh man. There's a lot of really interesting names receivers. Like Jerry Jeudy, Christian Watson. What do you do with Brandon Ayuk with no Deebo Samuel? With 49ers quarterback injury concerns? What do you even do with Chris Olave? Drake London's got a new quarterback. It's a crazy week at receiver. There's a lot of really, really tough decisions.
We're ranking Drake London low. I'm gonna rank Chris Olave higher than you will. I'm gonna slurp on that Mountain Dew and keep boosting Christian Watson up. I think that covers like most of the things you said.
The Baja Blast. So do you have Chris Olave in the top 24? I have his wide receiver 25.
Top 24. He's like one of the most targeted receivers in the NFL.
But so is, I'm telling you, man, it's congested, just like I am after having the flu.
I should probably put Falcons players in my rankings for some reason. That's the one team
don't rank them. Don't rank them.
This is insane. Guess the last time Chris Olave went under 40 yards. We talk about this Waddle floor.
No, he's a really high floor, and he pretty consistent targets too. But there's just no ceiling right now with Andy Dalton at all.
I mean, I think he's got 2 100-yard games with Andy Dalton. I get it's not like every single week, but no, go ahead. Guess. You've probably already looked it up. What do you think the last time he went under 40 yards was?
It's probably honestly week 4.
You got to go back to when he played at Ohio State.
Wow. All right, that's pretty cool. Pretty great. I mean, it's like cool. Amari Cooper, Christian Kirk, Brandon Ayuk, Jerry Jeudy, Christian Watson, Tyler Lockett. It's just a lot going on here.
I think I'd put him over all of them. Like, I know I would, in fact.
I don't know, man. Because a lot of those guys have ceilings. He does not. And a lot of them have similar floors, too.
I don't know. To me, the 40-something% air yard share guy, I like that guy's ceiling.
Yeah, I've got a lot of work to do in the ranks this week. It's seriously, it's a maze out there. Quarterback, we've got a lot of injury concerns. We're two of the guys who would be kind of like the streamer hype would be Mike White and Brock Purdy. Both are banged up. Mike White claims he's going to play through his rib injury. Man, he got laid low. I don't know how he's going to play, but he claims he's going to, and he's got a really good matchup in the Detroit Lions. Where should we be ranking Mike White?
I mean, dude, if he plays, obviously that is the matchup of all matchups. I think Twitter has dubbed that the Coors Field of fantasy football, which for a while was the Saints. Saints were the original Coors Field of fantasy because, for a while they had terrible defenses, but then Drew Brees. That's kind of the exact same setup, and it's indoors, and I believe Ford Field is indoors as well.
No, Kyle, it's not.
Oh, is that out?
Why was it outdoors? It's because the altitude is at 5,280 feet. Is the differentiating factor for Coors.
Yeah, the Jets are home.
Oh yeah, never mind.
It's going to be 35 degrees that day.
Not in Coors Field. Sorry.
I also think Coors Field, in this sense, is more of the matchup with a terrible Lions defense. Lions off. I mean, that's really what it matters. Like Coors Field in baseball is so much different because it literally just is altitude and dinger based, whereas this one is terrible defense.
This one's a mindset.
Yeah. I think a little more than a mindset, but it's a terrible defense in the Lions. I mean, they're like 31st in EPA per drop back allowed, but also near dead last in rush EPA allowed. But their offense, it's really good. So it's the perfect spot for back and forth matchups. But you pointed out, Mike White got rocked repeatedly.
I don't know why he's trying to play. I mean,
this man's career is on the line here.
It is, but so is his spleen. Like,
look, all right.
Some things you got to give up for the glory. You got to give it up for the glory, baby.
Because if I knew he were healthy, I would honestly have him ranked as probably the QB 11 or 12 overall.
I was gonna say 13 or 14. So
I got him at 13, just assuming he's gonna play.
I may or may not have him at QB 12.
So let me propose this to you guys. Say he does end up getting ruled out. Where do we rank Joe Flacco?
About
same.
I think I'd rank Joe Flacco
didn't he throw for 400 yards this year in the game or something? He threw. I knew he was 38 of 52 for a lot of yards and a lot of picks.
I think he might have had like 50. I think he almost got to 60. Yeah, it was 52 attempts. He didn't get close to 400 yards, but he had 3 straight 285-yard games to begin the year. Mr. Joey Bats.
Well, then 52 attempts is way too many attempts to not be throwing for 300 yards.
It is weird. Like, if the Jets actually contain the Lions' offense, which they could. I mean, they basically contain the Bills' offense. Like, I feel like they could probably
That's fair.
contain Jared Goff. But I don't know, man. Everywhere the Lions go, it just seems to just turn into some high volume. Like, this is different than the Bills. Or I just wish I knew.
Lions have really good speed on the outside, a really strong looking offensive line. I know the metrics are like kind of mixed on how their offensive line is. They look pretty good to me, and like really good running backs too. So and like I said, terrible defense. So yeah, I agree. Mike White, even with the concerns, I'm ranking him as like 13, 14. I think Joe Flacco would go a little lower.
But even with the concerns, Mike White against the Lions or Geno Smith against the 49ers?
I'll go Mike White.
I went Mike White. Mike White or his counterpart, Jared Goff?
Goff.
It's such a not great defensive matchup versus the Jets, but I think I'll go Goff.
I did go White, but
that's fine.
White or Deshaun Watson against the Ravens?
Oh, fire up Mike, baby.
Yeah.
Browns are going to run the ball 36 times, and that's if the offense goes well. That's the upside, yeah.
White or Aaron Rodgers against the Rams?
White. I'm not playing Rodgers. I will say all of my Mountain Dew talk has been how great Christian Watson has looked, and that he won't keep scoring at this rate, but he probably will keep scoring to some extent more than most players. He gets lots of red zone targets, end zone targets, and air yards. Perfect combination for scoring. That has also made the offense look better. Like, they needed this kind of player. So I should maybe give Rodgers a little credit, but playing him over Mike White, that's too much credit.
And Rodgers maybe needed a bye week more than like any player in the NFL.
Yeah.
And did finally get the bye week to heal up his he was Mike White before Mike White was, where he got his midsection just like obliterated. So he'll probably be a lot healthier. Then I don't know what to do with Brock Purdy, who is facing the Seattle Seahawks, who have just become a really, really good matchup. But maybe Brock Purdy's probably still really – he's not enough of a concern to really, I guess, have a rankings debate over, though, is he? Would you have him in the top 20?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. I mean, the offense is, like, perfect for backup quarterbacks coming in. I mean, it literally has been the, like, best offense for backup quarterback efficiency over the past 4 or 5 years. So 20 out of 32 seems fair.
Lawrence, what are your Purdy thoughts?
I mean, I'll take that 215 yards and 2 touchdowns, and I'll take that. That's definitely top 20. That's a top 20 play.
I do wonder, his fortunes changed probably fairly dramatically without Deebo Samuel.
20. Boom. I got him at 19. I just looked. I got him at 19.
I was the QB 21 right now. I have him one spot behind Russell Wilson, who might not play with a concussion.
I'm not playing Russell Wilson.
I mean, hey, Russ.
Didn't you just say that's like
Wilson
the lowest
back.
total?
He's back.
Well, Kyle, that total might reflect uncertainty over whether Russell Wilson is playing. Or actually, the total might go down.
Yeah, I know. I get that he tossed 3 touchdowns last week. He tossed a 4th one. It just went to the other team. He's
playing with urgency. He knows he needs to beat 12 touchdowns. He's playing with a sense of urgency. And he's not going to finish with more toilets than touchdowns. He's just not going to do it. That's not what Russell Wilson does. Brock Purdy against the Seahawks or Daniel Jones against the Commanders?
I'll go Danny Dimes. He just runs so much. It's like free QB, like 20 as his floor almost, even when he's terrible.
Purdy.
All right.
If Tyler Huntley plays through his concussion, Tyler Huntley against the Browns or Purdy against the Seahawks?
I have Huntley.
Me too.
2 spots ahead of Purdy, and it's close. Like, that one is tough.
Huntley's also just the rushing. Like, I'm not sure how much faith I have in the Ravens offense with Tyler Huntley, but Denny had pointed out in his waiver wire article, he averages nearly 10 carries a game. That's so much.
That is a lot. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get him. I only have him as the QB 22, right? I'm gonna have to get him higher. I guess that was maybe an injury hedge, but that is way too low for someone who runs that. There's so many head injuries this week. Kenny Pickett also concussed. A lot of head injury concerns at quarterback. We hope our quarterbacks get well soon. We'll end the show. I mean, tight end. Sometimes we don't even talk about tight end. I mean, Evan Engram, man, I don't know how many weeks I ranked Evan Engram as a tight end 1, and he does just jack, just absolutely nothing. And then I think, what is he now? Like the tight end 4 or 5 by total points?
I think it's 4.
where do we rank this guy who's playing the Dallas Cowboys this week? I mean, is he in the top 10? Is Evan Engram a top 10 tight end with all 32 teams playing?
I definitely got him in the top 10.
Yeah.
It's hard to, after scoring twice, 2 weeks in a row, that's world class when we talking fantasy tight ends here. And for him to have a career day, regardless of who it was against, they're showing that they needed him. So I got him at tight end 7 right now.
What's a tight end 11? Feels very low.
Yeah, I mean, the difference between tight end 7 and 11, though, has to be like 2 points in terms of like what you'd project them, maybe.
Well, right now, I have him behind Cole Kmet, who's been a more consistent than Evan Engram since Justin Fields became the quarterback.
Yeah, I think I'm a little afraid of this Jaguars offense. They've been beating up on some pretty like mediocre, especially Trevor Lawrence. Like the offense, even like when they didn't play well against the Lions for some reason, Lawrence didn't have like a terrible game in terms of turnovers or whatever. He didn't throw an interception. He hasn't thrown an interception like 6 weeks or something. But in general, they've played the teams like 18, 21, 26, 30, and 31 in EPA per dropback. And he's played well against them. Now he gets the wood chipper, man. I think it's the hardest matchup in the league. So
yeah, Dallas is second against tight ends in fantasy. He'll follow that up against the Jets, who are inside the top 10 against tight ends in fantasy. So it's gonna be, it's gonna be tough. If you was fortunate enough to start him the past couple of weeks, you might wanna, just cut your losses. But at the same time, tight ends be so random and they could do numbers against literally anybody. Like
even some good defenses like don't even care about stopping tight ends.
Right, exactly. Like the Cowboys gonna be locking up like Christian Kirk and Zay Jones.
I just checked. Unfortunately, ruining our argument, the Cowboys are bottom 5 in tight end fantasy points.
Oh man, that was.
But,
you sure?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I wish it weren't true.
Well, no, that's good.
No, bottom 5. They've allowed bottom 5 fantasy points against tight ends.
When you say bottom 5, are you saying they have allowed the 5th most or the 5th least? I don't know.
Least.
Bottom or
5th
top
least.
is.
5th
right?
least.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The same thing. He said nearly the same thing.
Well, now that it's updated, I don't know. I'm looking at football databases. They got Dallas as after week 14 now, because I guess it updated after the Monday night game. They have Dallas at number 1. So whatever it is, they're elite against tight ends. So there you go.
Yeah. So Evan Engram, it's gonna be Evan Engram and the infinite sadness, I feel like, this week. But
yeah,
I mean,
most tight ends are infinite sadness though. So that's why we're ranking.
I have to start him.
You kind of have to start him, but I don't know. You got
name 3 tight ends that aren't infinite sadness. I can name you 2.
I can't. I don't know if I can name any. Even Travis Kelce's kind of been sadnessing a bit.
And I'm not gonna. I think
Andrew's stock is going down.
Yeah, I think both of them are not infinite sadness. They're semi-sadness.
Yeah, it's true. They're just a little bit of sadness. But I mean, you could argue they're infinite sadness because they're the only ones who are supposed to be good. Now even they haven't been amazing. It's infinite.
I'm still we're holding the faith with them, although I do feel a little less faith holding with Mark Andrews. But
yeah, well, I feel a little less faith in continuing the show. It's time to end instead of just yelling about tight ends because they don't matter. They're going to be banned in fantasy soon anyway. Won't even have to talk about them next year. So yeah, great show. A lot of uncertainty this week. That's what having 32 teams play will do. We got Lawrence's Flex Finder coming up this week. We got Kyle's 32 stats. You guys have a live show Thursday evening?
That is correct. Right?
Kyle's got a live show Friday afternoon with Crane. You're still doing that, right?
Yes.
Right, folks?
We don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I got my rankings going live on Thursday morning. We got all sorts of stuff. Keep it locked on the site. A lot of injuries this week. A lot of news to sift through. So for Lawrence Jackson, for Kyle Dvorchak, I'm Patrick Daugherty. Thank you for listening. We'll be back later in the week.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and Rotoworld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Rotoworld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.